Okay, so matrix elements sums. Well, matrix element sum. After becoming famous, the codebots decided to move into a new building together. Each of the rooms have a different cost. Some of them are free, and there's a room with all the free rooms are haunted. Since the codebots are quite superstitious, they refuse to stay in any of the free rooms or any of the rooms below the free rooms. Given a matrix, a regular matrix of integers, where each value represents the cost of a room, your task is to return a total sum of all the rooms that are suitable for the codebots. And then the massive hint here is this. Add up all the values that don't appear below a 0. They've even made it even more simpler, that every 0 is a ghost. So here's our, even setting out the arrays like this. Right, if we was going to do console.log matrix, oh goodness me, it's not very nice here. I mean, the input, it's nice to just see them stacked like that. It makes this question a little bit more easier to visualize it. The first thing that we'd want to do is sort of set the array up so we can loop through each column. And then we want to loop through each box going through each row. So if we do a for loop and we let I is equal to 0, and then I is less than matrix. Now I'm going to do matrix 0 index, and we could do matrix 1 or 2, but we always know that there's going to be the first array within this array. And one big hint here is rectangular matrix of integers, which sort of tells us that every array is going to have the same length. So we're not going to get an array length of 2 and then the array length of 3 after. They're always going to be the same. So this will give us 4 in this example, and what that'll do is it will set us up to loop through each column. The next thing you want to do is say, okay, so we're setting ourselves up to loop through each column. We need to now loop through each sort of row. So we can do the exact sort of same with the for loop. So let j is equal to 0. J is less than. Now if we just do, oh, I didn't even finish this loop, did I? The length. And then we want to increment I plus plus. Now if we do matrix dot length and then do j plus plus, what these loops are doing is the first one is sort of setting our matrix up to loop through each column. The next thing is this loop, the second loop, is saying, okay, so we're readying ourselves up to loop through the first column. Now we want to loop through this value, and then this value, and then this value. And then when that loop finishes, this for loop will be like, okay, so now I is equal to 1 for the next loop, which means let's do that. So 0, 1, 2, and 3. And then this one here is 0, 1, and 2. So if I can, just set the screens up so it's a bit nicer. Okay. No, we need a bit wider. Why has that done that? Oh, okay, there we go. Okay, so, goodness. with the first loop, we're setting our columns up, so it'll be these ones here. So on this loop 1, we're looping through the first column. With the second for loop, we're going to start to loop through each row. And we've done matrix.length because that will give us how many rows there are to loop through. So on the first loop of when j is equal to 0, we're going to get these numbers here. We're going to get these. And then that loop's finished. So then when I is equal to 1, j will then equal 0, and then it will equal 1, and then equal 2. So it will then go through these ones. When I is equal to 2, because we're now incrementing it by 1, j will loop through each row. And then when I is equal to 3, the j loop will once again loop through each one of these. And then I is equal to 3, which is less than the matrix 0 length, which the array of numbers are 4. So our loop will stop, and then this loop won't happen. So to get hold of each number, if we console.log matrix I and j, this will loop through each. What have I done here? Zero, 1. I'm pretty sure. When it's equal to 0, you don't want to do. Okay. Scrap that. Let's bring this code over here. Right. If we do if the matrix, that can't be right. I think I've done something wrong here, so just bear with. Matrix I, matrix j is equal to 0. Is greater than 0. Let's just do greater than 0. Then we want to do this, console.log matrix. I will explain what I'm doing. I just want to double check I'm on the right. Cannot read property of 0. Matrix element sum 4. So we can't read this. I believe that's the error. No, cannot read property of 1. Do we have to do the j first? Yes. Okay. Let's just cancel this out. And then we'll just do console log these. Because you're looping through j first, you need to put the index of j here first, and then you can do the index of I. So, as you can see here, we're looping through each integer individually now. So 0, 0, 2. And now the j loop is finished, we're going to go to the next column, which is 1, 5, 0. Now that column's finished. I is equal to 3. No, I is equal to 2 now, so 1, 0, and 3. 1, 0, and 3. And then the next one is 2, 0, and 3. So that's great, but when we hit a 0, we just don't actually want to carry on doing the column. and we just want to move on to the next column. So what we can just do is quite similar to what I just did, is if matrix Ji is greater than just is equal to 0, then we can use break. And what break will do is it will just cancel the loop. So if we now console.log the matrix J and I, we can see that when it hits a 0, that loop's finished. So another key part is add up all the values that don't appear below a 0. So 0's been hit. So this is true, and then break occurs, which cancels this loop. And then when this loop is finished, it then moves on to the next column. So 1, 5, which we've got here, and then 0's hit. So then the break occurs, and it moves on to the next one. 1, which we've got here, 0, break, that loop is finished, move on to the next column. 2, 0, break happens, and then that column's finished, move on to the next one. There's not a next one to do, so then this loop is finished, and then we can return whatever value. But what we need to do is it says add up all the values, so we need to actually create a counter. So let counter equal 0, and then we want to literally just say counter plus equals plus the matrix, like the value. And what this will do is it will just tally up what the value is plus the counter at that current time. So we've got 1, so matrix plus 0 is 1, and then this value here is 5. 5 plus the counter is now 1, which is 6, and then it'll be 7, and then 8, 9. So if we return the counter, it's passed because the output is 9 and the expected value is 9. If we do console, just to explain, console.log the counter, you can see it's tallying up each time. We do it before here. So we've got 0, and now the new counter is 1. So the counter's 1, and then the new counter after this is 6. And then once again, the counter is 6 plus that matrix value, which makes 7, because it was 1 that time. And then the final one, which is 2. 7 plus 2 is 9. Just take these out, and that's how you solve this one.